concealed, you
Okay.
do. But in California, you have to have, which is one of the most restricted states, you have to have a gun safety certificate, which you get by taking a written test just to own firearms. And then gun dealers, they must be like legal and licensed and everything. And it prohibits the assault weapons that meets those standards, the assault semi-automatics, 50 caliber rifles, guns with a magazine capacity over 10 rounds, and sawed-off shotguns and rifles, which the barrel length is over 18 inches, then it's not a sawed-off. But if it's under that 18-inch mark, then it's a sawed-off.
And California was one of the first states to implement that assault weapons ban.
Okay.
And one of the things that was interesting is that some of the people who were advocating it didn't understand basic functions of a gun and how it worked, semi-automatic, fully automatic, and how it worked. But how gun manufacturers got around that in California to start changing model numbers on guns and the name of guns. But when it boils down to it, there are certain sportsman hunting rifles that can do just as much and more damage of repeating fire as an assault-looking rifle can do.
So that assault weapons ban went into effect in 1994, I believe?
Yeah.
And it's still in effect across the country, is what I...
The assault weapons ban,
Yes.
I believe it was in 2007, no, 2009. It was able to be differentiated among the states. I remember the atmosphere I used to go to a lot of gun shows. I remember the atmosphere. I mean, things changed. Everybody, all the vendors had assault rifles. They were selling like hotcakes. They were like 2 or 3 times the price of what they are now. But I think in 2009 is when states were able to decide that.
Okay, you mentioned gun shows. I've heard about this gun show loophole. I think it was in the election. Everybody was talking about close the loophole. I have no idea what the loophole is or how big it is or why it's at gun shows. Do we have loopholes out? I mean, can you tell me a little bit about what a gun show loophole is?
There's not a law against me selling a gun to Blake.
Okay.
Private owners can sell guns to other private owners. So
Okay.
that's at gun shows. Like there's one here down in Arena on the 25th this month. But like Buds, for them to sell you a gun, they have to have a federal firearms license.
Because it's not a personal transaction.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So there's not a law.
So the loophole doesn't necessarily have to do with gun shows. It has to do with person-to-person transactions of guns, is what you're saying? Private parties, private entities?
Party, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
So maybe the gun show part's a little bit of a misnomer?
Do what?
The title gun show then may be a bit of a misnomer, and it's really just a person-to-person transaction.
Exactly. A lot of money, yeah.
So when you say close the loophole, you mean don't allow me to sell a gun to you?
They want to implement more regulation at a gun show, like the background check system and things of that nature.
Make it more like purchasing from a store. Then.
Exactly.
I see. That makes so much more sense. Okay.
Do we have any?
In California, that you have to, personal transactions have to be licensed.
Yeah.
And there's like the guns that you sell have to be California legal, which there's like a roster of like handguns and stuff that it has to be on that roster for you to be able to sell it, even licensed.
So you got to check the list first.
Yeah.
Do we know how, percentage-wise, or guesstimate of people who buy from gun shows, person to person, versus in a shop where there are those restrictions?
Do what? I'm sorry. No.
So, like, do we have a percentage of how many people in the United States typically buy from licensed individuals who have to run the background check versus these personal transactions, gun shows? I mean, if you had to guess, how many people are getting through without those?
I do not have a number on that, but I mean, there's 4. It's Kenwood Gun Knife, so there's 4 a year referee, and it fills up the whole place. I mean, if I go to it, it'll take me 2 or 3 hours to walk through the whole thing. If I stop and look at everything.
If I had to guess, I'd say there's a large percentage of people that buy from private gun shows.
So you've talked about California a good bit, about how they're stricter with the way that they have their laws in place. So is there a correlation there between their crimes with guns as opposed to a state like Kentucky that doesn't have as strict a regulation?
They do have, in LA, a lot of gun violence, and California has a lot of gun violence overall as a state, statistically. As a correlation, it's mixed results. They don't know. Louisiana has very weak gun laws, but there's still gun violence there. You know, Chicago, high gun violence, a lot of gun control there. So, from what I can tell, I don't see a correlation yet. And the CDC, I'm pretty positive in their report, also hasn't been able to find a correlation between the two.
And we've talked about California a lot. Let's think about another big state, the great state of Texas. I know that there's an open carry law in the great state of Texas. I believe Governor Abbott passed that very recently. Can you tell me what is an open carry law, and how does the gun crime rate in a state like Texas correlate to something like California, or certainly we talk about Chicago as a city and its strict gun laws?
Yeah, well, we have open carry law here in Kentucky, which means if you are over the age of 18, you're allowed to open carry a pistol on your hip. So you're just allowed to carry a gun openly. You don't need a license, you don't need anything. If I have a gun and I'm 18 years old, I can strap it to my hip and wear it around.
In a gun area.
Okay.
Yeah,
If it's like marked off like a safe zone, then you wouldn't be able to do that like
That's a good
in
point.
school.
You wouldn't be able to open carry in school.
Yeah.
So as long as somebody can see the weapon,
yeah,
Yeah.
It's an open
it can be
carry?
Concealed.
yeah. Like this, I've got a jacket on, like this could go over it. That's not okay, you know.
Okay.
That could be considered concealing it. So.
but I don't need to get a license to do that or anything?
No, the police don't have to ask you or question you about it, you know. If
As
you
long as
got
I purchased it legally, and I'm not
They
freaking
don't
too many
have to
people out,
ask
I
you
could just
anything.
strap it on my side and...
Exactly.
Wow, okay.
Just strap it on your side.
Okay.
I know people who open carry, and I don't know if it's the smartest thing, you know, thinking if somebody's gonna rob a place, they're probably gonna choose the guy with the gun to take out first. I don't know. That's what I think.
Now, can we talk a little bit about, we've talked about open carrying on a person. Let's talk about a vehicle, for instance. I happen to have a conceal and carry license.
Okay.
I'm not concealing or carrying currently, just putting that out there. How does that, do I have to have a conceal and carry license to carry a firearm in my car?
In certain ways, yes.
Okay.
You're allowed to have a gun in your glove box. You're allowed to have it on your person
Mhm.
to open carry. There are certain, you cannot have it under your seat.
Okay.
So that's for open carry. There's some yes and no's. Personally, regardless if you have a conceal and carry or not, if I would get pulled over and I had a conceal and carry, I wouldn't touch the gun. I'd tell the cop, no, it's in the glove box. There's a lot of stuff going on, you know, but I'd say it's in there. If you want to get it out, you get it out.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's yeses and nos to that. You can have it on your hip, or you can have it in your glove box. You cannot have it on your seat. Yeah, there's some.
There's certain stipulations to
Yes.
being able to do that. Okay, thank you.
What do you think are some of the reasons why the American public's views on guns and gun control has shifted so dramatically in maybe the last 20, 30 years? Yeah, I guess start there.
I'd
There's
say
a lot of media coverage.
A lot of media is more more liberal with it, and then I guess as
I think the most topic is like carrying a firearm is going to protect you or not. That's the most. That's the topic that like the media talk about most. Like if you're carrying a gun, they're talking about like if the criminal, like the guns, the gun supporters, like they want to have a gun. They said if you bury an arm, you can point the guns to the criminal, and they were scared and they will run. And the other people, like the gun control people, they want to say like, if the criminal already point a gun to you, what you gonna do? So even if you have a firearm, you cannot like have some like a reaction to that, right? So that's the like an issue for the like why people are arguing is gun control needed or not. Yeah.
Is a gun a deterrent or not? I think is what you're saying. Then. Okay.
Yeah.
Blake, did you have? It seemed like you had something else you wanted to add.
I was just saying that, like, if I had to put like a why on it, was going more towards gun control, I would probably just say that, like, more and more people are growing up without experience around guns. Like
There's definitely gun culture.
yeah, there's like people who grow up, like Jacoby, he has grown up, there's been guns in his house, he's shot guns all his life. And I mean, I've grown up in a house, there's never been guns in it, and I've shot a gun like once maybe. And I mean, so I don't have a lot of experience with it, and I think more people are becoming like that. And then when, you know, mass shootings and stuff like that happen, people get more scared and aren't really gun educated enough to know the difference.
I got a quote from a book Ms. Keck gave me. It's a 500-page book of collected authors. It's edited by a guy named Lee Nisbet, PhD. And I thought it was great when I read it. He said, succinctly put, millions of Americans are fearful and contemptuous of exactly what millions of other Americans love and cherish. So that pretty much summed it up.
Was that about the election, or was that about gun control?
That was about gun control.
Okay, sorry, I couldn't pass that one up. That was an easy one. Let's see. Well, we said that gun control topics have been certainly in the media a lot lately, and somebody had mentioned a lot of the mass shootings that had gone on may have kept that more prevalent. Is there a thinking then that having greater gun control could diminish the amount of mass shootings, or could somehow abate that? Is that the logic here?
Yeah, that would be the logic.
Okay.
I mean, if you're not allowed to have the gun that can shoot a lot of bullets in a
Right.
very short amount of time, very accurately, so it can take out a lot of people. So
Let me ask
I guess
each of you individually, and this won't be in your notes, what are your feelings on that? Do you feel like stricter gun control could prevent some of the mass shootings that have happened, if not the majority of them?
I
Blake?
mean, my personal opinion is no. There's not a correlation between making it illegal and it stopping, just from stuff like the guns kill people and people kill people thing. I'm a people kill people view, and I think that you can, if someone wants to kill someone, they can do it whether they have a gun or not. There's a lot of other ways, and that, like what my mom always tells me, her view on it, she says, because she works in the hospital, she says heroin's illegal and it kills many, many, many people every day. So like making guns illegal isn't going to stop it from killing people.
Will, what do you think?
Well, we've got more guns than people in our country, so there's a lot out there, and there's a lot of gun culture. No, I don't think heavy gun regulation would help, because there's such a minuscule amount of, I mean, mass shooting deaths accounts of 0.1%, so 0.001% of deaths in the past 30 years. And the rifles that are used, I mean, there was over 3.3 million assault rifles before 2012, before huge spike in sales after Sandy Hook, which is always a huge spike in gun sales after a shooting for some reason. I guess people don't feel unsafe, but no, I don't think heavy gun regulation is the issue. I think people who are denied health treatment for mental disorders, or who don't get treatment, I think that's more something to look at, and that's what the American Psychology Association focused on too. They got a whole report on the thing. I read just a little bit of it because there's a lot there. But.
Okay. Alex, if we could rewind and go back 5-10 years and enact strict gun regulations, would it have helped prevent some of the mass shootings that have happened in the news recently?
Like in China, I cannot remember like too much like a mass shooting violence, but I think like strict to the gun, like a control to the gun, can stop the mass shooting, but it cannot stop the like a huge violence stuff.
Okay.
And there in China, there's a topic called Tibet Independent. Have you heard about that? So there was like a terrorism attack in a train station. So like it's called like a Tibet Independent organized. They they used like a 8-inch long knife to a cooking knife. Like Chinese cooking knife is very big. It's like 8-inch long like this. The cooking knife is designed to cook. It's not to killing people. But these people use the cooking knife to stab at people. So I think it's the same as the guns. And the guns can be designed to protect yourself, but you also need to hurt someone. But the knife is also like designed to like for Chinese people it's cooking. Some people it's for like a stab. And I think if you strict the weapons, you cannot like prevent the violence. But if you do like strict the guns, at least you will prevent someone shoot someone.
So you could reduce gun violence, but not necessarily violence in general.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good point of view.
Do we have any idea how often guns are actually used in self-defense, like home burglary?
Like a number.
Oh, is there any statistics for that?
Yeah, annually they're used from a range about 500,000 more than 3 million per year in the context of 300,000 violent crimes involving firearms in 2008. So defenses using guns are pretty common.
Those predominantly registered guns, licensed gun
Yeah.
owners?
Yeah.
Those are predominantly licensed guns, gun owners?
Licensed gun owners, yes. And the CDC report in 2013 said that studies directly assessed the effect of actual defenses uses guns, incidents in which guns were used by the crime victim in the scenes of attacking or threatening a vendor, and found consistently lower injury rates among gun-using crime victims compared to victims who use other self-protective strategies. That's directly from the CDC report. So, yes, so that they're less likely to get hurt, and gun defenses are pretty common in the United States.
And in some countries, in some specific country, like I would talk about like a country out of the United States, like in China and in Australia, and it could like if you self-defense, it also could be regarded as a crime. Yeah, by like self-defense by using a firearm.
Okay, so if you use a firearm to defend yourself, it could still be a crime for you.
Yes.
Because you used the firearm.
Yes.
Interesting. What do you think about the gun laws in Mexico, guys? Did you find anything about those in your research? Just curious. Really
I
close.
thought Texas was really interesting law of shooting someone in the back. That's punishable by death if you shoot somebody in the back. But I guess you can shoot them in the leg till they turn around. There's a loophole there.
Gives you nothing. Wow. That's good. What else we got? Well, we talked a little bit about, and I mentioned that I'm a conceal and carry owner. How do the conceal and carry laws, do all states have conceal and carry laws? Are they different? Can I take my conceal and carry license to Indiana? Can I take it to Tennessee? Can I take it to Florida? Or, I mean, is it still good there? Is it only good in the state of Kentucky? Tell me a little bit about that. Not that I would take it to other states, I'm just saying theoretically, is it applicable?
I am not 100% positive on that.
I'm almost positive you have to get it in different states.
It's per state.
Yeah, like if you have to, when like cops ask like how many states are you licensed to conceal and carry, so you have to have it for different.
You won't
different
get,
states.
forget what happens. You don't get charged with a fine, but I know of a person who's gone to another state and the cop pulled him over and he was registered in Kentucky for conceal and carry. So I'm pretty sure other states have to respect Kentucky's law. Is that, yeah?
That you're both extremely close.
Okay.
Each state that has conceal and carry laws can issue their own licenses,
Yeah.
and they can choose to recognize licenses from other states, which
Okay.
typically is a reciprocal thing.